All right, we're live. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and yeah, we're doing an early morning live stream for this news story. I don't know if there's going to be a live stream tonight. There might be. It'd certainly be nice to, but right now I'm going to assume this is the one and done live stream that we're doing for the day. So, standard disclaimer. Topic might go off a little bit. We don't know exactly how long it's going to be. I anticipate no more than 30 minutes on this one, though, to be honest. This is probably going to be a short one. But I do want to talk about this really insane thing that Lyft's lawyer said recently. And, hey, Nation Drivers, how you doing? And Sam, this is like a... Now I have to kind of go back to my past a little bit to understand, to give people some context on this, because while I was in Germany, some news stories hit about the Americans with Disabilities Association suing Uber for basically not providing enough vehicles to people with disabilities. And I think I came off as a little uncaring in that video because I was reading the facts as plainly as I read them. So, which was that, one of their whole things was like, Uber is deliberately not providing enough rideshare enabled vehicles for disabled people. And my argument was, well, I don't agree. I don't agree because we are independent contractors. They're not hiring anyone, technically. They're letting people onto the platform. And people are essentially volunteering, and at this point in time, they're basically doing charity work. And I was like pointing out there was a disabled vehicle that happened to be there in the middle of Berlin, Germany. And I'm like, look, this is what a disabled vehicle looks like, a disability-enabled vehicle. And look at what you need to do to update this thing. And look, it takes a lot more gas, a lot more power, a lot more maintenance, and yet the drivers are not paid more. So yes, they have an option where you can join the Uber Assist program, and yet there's no incentive for a driver to do so. And then I kind of ended by saying, and this is usually not a good argument to make, even though it's true in many ways. I kind of said, look, if Uber is not meeting your needs, there are plenty of companies that will. There are companies that are open specifically for disabled people. So yeah, it's more expensive, but if it gives you the convenience, the peace of mind, and it has the customer service you expect and demand, maybe you should give your money to those services, not the company that seemingly is not interested in helping you out. Although again, I think a lot of the problem is that the whole independent contractor status. I mean, yeah, most companies have a quota to fill, but if you're not employing anyone technically on the books, even though, since then, my stance is like more and more become we are employees, we're just not classified as employees, then there really wasn't a whole lot you can do. Well, apparently these people are coming after Lyft as well. They're coming after Lyft as well. And their lawyer, and God bless lawyers. Once in a while, you have to admire just how they really, truly, what length they will go to defend their clients. He wrote, or maybe it's she, I don't know exactly, to be honest, this really crazy response to why they don't have to follow disability laws. And I'm reading this article from Fast Company by Melissa Locker. And she writes, Lyft wants a federal court to believe that it is not in the transportation business. Now let's look at that one sentence real quick. Because you know what? Had this been worded slightly differently, legally, they might have stated the right thing. The sentence says Lyft is not in the transportation business. Now, this is where you have to give Uber a little bit more credit. Uber was smart enough to say, we are not a transportation company. In fact, that's kind of like the funny thing about Uber. They always change what their company is, depending on the day of the week, so that they can like decide what regulations they want to avoid. So first it's like, no, we're not a transportation company. We're a technology company. And then it's like, we're not a technology company. We're a payment processing company. Oh no, we're not a payment processing company. We're a data analytics company. I think right now maybe now, or even at one point, they were even a social network. Because, yeah, how many of you have added your friends to each other on Uber's app? I mean, maybe there's a way to do it, but I don't know why you do it. So, even though Uber is making not much of a better argument, they are at least using the legal wording correctly. Lyft says it is not in the transportation business, which is patently false, regardless how you look at it. The Lyft app connects cars to one another to transport people. That is being in the transportation business. The scooters that they rent are so people can get from point A to point B in an inexpensive way. They are in the transportation business. We're not even through the first sentence, and already Lyft is more cuckoos for Cocoa Puffs than Uber has been in months. It's absolutely insane, these companies. But let's continue looking a little bit more. In a federal class action lawsuit filed in Westchester County, New York, the company claims that it is merely a tech company and not subject to the Americans with Disabilities Act. I don't think that's 100% true. I mean, here's the thing about the Americans with Disability Acts. I think you do have to make some reasonable effort to make sure everyone feels welcome at some point, provided it's not like a safety issue. Sorry, my eyes are itchy right now. That's why when you go to a movie theater, by the way, you have these little headphones that you can request, and it will describe what's going on in the movie for people who can't see. I don't know how that would work with Fantasia per se, but you know. They also have those little monitors where if you're deaf, you can like kind of read subtitles, or you know, maybe the deaf people can go to foreign language film. There's a lot of great foreign language films. And I see a lot of people are in the comments, by the way. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking. I know I'm not really being responsive right now, but it's because we're talking about the main topic at hand. I'll try to get to some of these questions afterwards. But it's pretty amazing what what people have to do for the ADA, including, like, I actually noticed this one time when I was doing the drive-thru at the ATM. They have Braille on the ATMs in the drive-thru. Like, why? Like, a blind person isn't going to drive, but they have to make a reasonable accommodation. So there it is. So I don't think being a tech company means you are not subject to the ADA. I think you are still subject to it. It's just what you're subject to might be different. So anyway, yes, the company that wants to be a kinder and better version of its arch rival Uber is in court trying to find ways to avoid making transportation more accessible for people living with disabilities. You know, and here's the thing. This is what can be a problem with journalism today. Sorry, is that it becomes so opinionated. Like, here's the thing. I'm a commentary channel. So I can share my opinion, but this is supposed to be like a straight up news article. And that is insinuating something that they can't actually prove. Like, they're saying right here, they want to find ways to avoid making transportation accessible for more people living with disabilities. No, I don't think that's why. I think the reason why is because, honestly, they can't provide that transportation. Like, they know they can't actually get people to volunteer to do this for them without paying them more money and providing specialty cars and stuff. And that's an investment Sorry, I'm so used to saying Uber. Lyft doesn't want to make. I don't think they want to purposefully make it more, more difficult for people with disabilities. I just think they don't want to spend the money that it would entail to do so. Unfortunately, and this is not me being mean, it really isn't. It's a reality. When you've got someone with a disability, you have to do special things for them. And most businesses are happy to do it because they want your money. But in some situations, I'm sure the company sees the cost that, accommodating disabled people actually adds. And it's whether or not they want to do it or not. I mean, this is why pretty much every building has an elevator, whether you really need one or not, because they need to cater to disabled people. There needs to be that option. And most people are fine with an elevator. They'd want one. But now you've got Uber and Lyft, and here's the other thing. Uber and Lyft are making the autonomous vehicles supposedly. Now once they start running the autonomous vehicles, a certain number of those have to be disabled ready, or disability ready, I should say. And well, do they want to have that expense? I think they just don't want to pay for the expense. I don't think they want to deliberately make it less accessible for people with disabilities. I personally just think in their business model, that's a nuisance. I'm not saying that's right, by the way. I'm just saying that's what it is. But anyway, the article continues. According to Politico, the class action lawsuit was filed against Lyft in August 2017 by White Plains resident Harriet Lowell and Westchester Disabled on the Move for the company's failure to provide accessible vehicles to equitably serve people living with disabilities who just want to take a Lyft. Well, again, that's the problem with the lawsuit, though. Lyft doesn't provide any vehicles. Lyft just provides a connection service. I mean, they are still very much in the transportation business. Don't get me wrong, but they're not actually sending out the vehicles that they own. The suit comes in the wake of a settlement with New York City where Lyft, Uber, and Via agreed to at least 80% of requests for wheelchair accessible vehicles in under 10 minutes and 90% in under 15 by mid-2021. That's not going to happen, by the way. Considering that New York City's subway system is barely accessible, having ride shares as an option could be life-changing for people with disabilities, but there's even more at stake since the lawsuit could conceivably force the companies to make their systems more accessible nationwide. Yeah. For its part, Lyft disputes its obligations under the ADA on the grounds that it's not a transport company, but is instead in the app business. However, it's facing at least one other class action lawsuit, this one in the Bay Area, claiming that it discriminates against people with disabilities. Let's take a moment and pause. What does the ADA say? Let's see here. Employment laws, disability and discrimination. I got this from Bing. The Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities and guarantees equal opportunities for individuals with disabilities in employment, transportation, public accommodation, state and local government services, and telecommunications. Well, already I can see a couple things there. First of all, they are in the transportation business, whether they say so or not. Also, their app could probably be argued that it's telecommunications as well, because, you communicate with people in the app. So, yeah, I don't think that's like a pretty bonkers statement to make. And the article ends by saying, we've reached out to Lyft for comments. So yeah, okay, that's a pretty brief article. But yeah, that's their argument right now. That, hey, we're not in the transportation business. That is like the worst thing they could have actually said. Because they are in the transportation business. And they could argue they're not a technology company. I don't think that's a very good argument either. But there could be... that could be conceivably argued to a certain extent if you really were able to do so. Like, oh, sorry, my nose is now all of a sudden running. So, hate doing it live when I'm recovering. But that's, like, I think a smart lawyer could probably look at all the way it all works and maybe argue that they are a technology company. I mean, especially if they do more than one thing. But I have to say, that still seems like a weak argument because, and I'm trying to load the comments so I can start responding to you guys. But the stupid YouTube Studio Beta, I hate this thing. But I don't think Lyft can successfully argue that they're not transportation. They are transportation. In fact, they're more transportation than Uber because they don't even have a Lyft Eats or Lyft Food or whatever. It's like all they have is a car-based app and scooters. And both of them deal with transportation. So let me turn this off. There we go. So anyway, let's go. Let me go here so that I can kind of, by the way, for all you who are here, if you haven't, give it a thumbs up, the video a thumbs up, get it trending. Maybe Bam Bam will come in and talk about how irrelevant I am again, and that's always fun. But let's see here, because I want to talk to some of you people. So, because one of the things I like about live is that I get to talk to you guys, and yet it's taken forever to load everything on this side. So my opinion is personally that's a thin argument, and they're not going to. Okay, so Alex is here. Let's see what Alex has to say. Nothing against disabled people, but those rides should pay more due to the responsibilities it brings to us. They should, Alex, but here's where it gets tricky. Here's where it gets really, really tricky. I agree with that. I agree that people who pick up people with disabilities should be paid more, because you do need more specialized equipment, a more specialized car. You have to spend extra time that you don't normally have to spend with another person. Here's the thing. The law says that you can't charge them more for that service. Now, I know why the law says that. I personally always disagree with it a little bit. If you need special accommodations, they are exactly what they sound like. Special accommodations. And if those special accommodations add more to the cost of the company, I think a little bit extra should be paid. But again, I know why they want to make it equal. So since it is that way, the problem with that is that to do what you are suggesting, Uber and Lyft would have to willingly pay the driver more, knowing that they are not getting extra money for that trip, even though that trip is costing them more money. So, that's where you get really the sticky situation. So, glad you got your appreciation bonus, Bick. 80s nostalgia guy. I like reading his comments. He says, I think Uber should have special rides for handicapped people. Most of us don't have any medical training to provide special accommodations to them. If something goes wrong, we are all liable. That's another thing that's not brought up, is like, for you to handle a disabled person or someone who might have special medical conditions, you need to have special training. And if you don't have that special training and something does go wrong, you are liable, and that is a big, big problem. So, like I said, there's just extra costs involved in all of this that Uber and Lyft just frankly don't want to pay. And they're never going to want to pay it. They're already losing money on the basic rides, the people who don't cause problems. Well, I don't want to say problems, like the ones who are like easy to deal with, in the sense that you drive up, they hop in, you drive off. Look, again, this is nothing against someone in a wheelchair, but like, the car has to come to a complete stop. It has to be specially modded. You have to get them on. There's like a little elevator on it. It's like I've known people who are in wheelchairs, and I see their life, and admittingly, it does look difficult. But that's something Uber does not want to spend for the equipment. They do not want to spend for the training. And the thing is, since none of their drivers are employees anyway, they don't have to provide that. I keep saying Uber. We're talking about Lyft here. But again, Lyft's argument is really bad. It's very bad. Travis says rideshare is not a real job. Well, it used to be a real job. Metal Therapy TV says wheelchair accessible vans are expensive. You can't afford to do it for X rates. Why would you? Yeah, and that's why most people don't even volunteer for this, because they do have Uber access. I don't know what the Lyft equivalent is. They do have options, though, where like, hey, you can put it, I will take a disabled person. But if you have to use one of these special vans or something, the regular and X rates don't cover the cost of that trip when you do that. So, you know, why would you volunteer for that? It's like Stacey King says, since Lyft and Uber are not... Oh, oops. Sorry, I hate it when that happens. Where... There we go. Since Lyft and Uber are not in the transportation business, once they put driverless vehicles on the road, are they still not a transportation company? I would argue they're already a transportation company. I think if you deal in businesses that deal with transportation, you may not be strictly speaking a transportation company, but you are in the business of transportation. Because, for example, Toyota and Hyundai can say we're not in the transportation business because their service isn't transportation. And ironically, they'd be correct. They're selling you a car. They're selling you a product. But to say they're not in the transportation business would be incorrect, I think, because their product is in the transportation business. So that's what I think. But anyway, let's see here. Who else? Just Me says insurance companies are the ones paying for those rides. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Alliance, I think we covered that topic. Metal Therapy TV, everyone should really quit before you need brakes, and tires again, or another windshield. Yeah, too late for a lot of people there. Little Roller Scratcher, that's old news. KJ The Show said, this is upcoming Wednesday, Atlanta will be striking against... Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of strikes and protests happening on the 8th, guys. So, I keep getting emails about that. Thank you, by the way, so much for continuing to send me that information. I am aware of it, and I keep sharing it on when I can during these live streams, and I should be at one of those live streaming. Let's see here. Oh, jeez, I hate it when... Tracy says, disabled person knows this. They're just looking for a cheaper way to go. Well, of course they know this, and of course they're looking for a cheaper way to go. But that's not necessarily something that's unique to disabled people. That's everyone. Everyone is trying to get the best price. I mean, a regular person right now could not take an Uber or Lyft. They could take a taxi. They could say, hey, I'm getting ripped off. The drivers are getting screwed. This is not a reputable or safe company. I could do something else. But why do they pick Uber and Lyft despite knowing all this? Because it's cheaper. That's why. It's nothing different. Travis Kalanick says, I see canes, walkers, wheelchairs, dogs. I keep on driving. FK those entitled a-holes. Yeah. Here's a funny thing. I think I recall reading a story about this Uber. I think I saw this story. Yeah. ABC covered this story. And the headline was, sorry, I wish I had some tissues here. Uber driver sees passenger in wheelchair drives by. Now the article is being covered up by an ad. And so here's what the article said. On-demand ride-sharing has become the new normal way to get around but not for everyone. Disability advocates say Uber and Lyft have left millions of passengers in the dust without equal access to rides. Now a Bay Area man is suddenly among those left behind after a terrible car crash 6 years ago changed his life forever. Becoming paralyzed is hard, he said, the 35-year-old Joshua Foster. I've gone through all this crap. It's hard. Multiple surgeries. It's tough. Yet, Foster says he's also stronger than ever. I live in my own house. I take care of my own self. He also drives his own car, swiftly pulling his wheelchair and hoisting himself in the driver's seat. But that is far from his only strength. Foster is a world-class wheelchair bodybuilder, ranking in the top 10 in professional competitions. You have never met a more able handicapped person than myself, he said. And so he was stunned about what happened one night. I wanted to go and have fun, so I called an Uber. Foster was heading to a friend's birthday party and wanted to drink and not drive, so he called an Uber. However, when the driver pulled up, he didn't see Foster. He saw a man in a wheelchair. He looked at me and literally just went, no, I can't do this. Foster recalled, shaking his head vigorously as the driver said, I was like, are you sure? Foster tried to explain he didn't need help, that he could get in and out of the car himself. I was like, hey man, this is how it goes. I'm going to hop on the seat, the wheels come off, the cushion comes off, I'll fold it and it sits right behind me because I drive my own. Foster recalled saying. He goes, no, shut the door. He just got back and I'm like, wow. Okay, now, again, this is where journalism becomes such a problem, because it says Uber driver sees passenger in wheelchair and takes off. It's like, that is not what happened. There was a conversation here, which the driver was being a jerk, admittingly, but there was a conversation here. And then the driver basically refused service. Now, of course, it gets complicated at this point because there's that debate, like independent contractors, you should be allowed to agree to take whoever you want to take and not take whoever you don't want to take. But, you know, they have these laws for a reason. And in this case, I don't know why the driver was saying no, because the guy in the wheelchair, what's his name? Foster. He was explaining how he could do this without needing any help. So I don't know why he bothered to leave him, why he left him behind. I think that's wrong. But anyway, he's doing this article. He's like, I just want people to understand you can't keep doing this. You can't make people feel like they're less than human just because of a wheelchair. I agree. Oh, also, Foster tried to report this to Uber, but he did not get a response. And that's probably why he's turning to the media. They're like, how do you rate your experience? 5 or 1, he recalls. I'm like, psst. It was treating me like a robot, a Twitter robot. So, yeah. Okay, here's another thing. This is what's important. This is what's relevant to the topic that we're talking about earlier. Where was it? It was here a moment ago. So, Foster contacted ABC sister station KGO7 on your side. We told the story to Uber, and the company says it does comply with the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, saying drivers who use the Uber app agree to accommodate riders with disabilities and must comply with accountability laws. We do not condone discrimination. I'm sorry, what's going on over here? Anyway, but it's not clear whether all gig drivers, many of whom are just signing up, will comply to ADA or even understand it. And that's true. There are some things that people don't understand. Like, for example, Mark pointed this out in one of his videos. When it comes to service animals, when you drive up and someone says it's a service animal, some people think, oh, well, now you got to take them because they say it's a service animal. Not necessarily. You are allowed to ask one question. What has the service animal been trained to do? And by the way, emotional support is not a legally recognized training skill. Like, if they say the dog is trained to do this or the dog is trained to do that, then you let them on the car. If they don't have an answer for you, if they say, oh, this is an emotional support animal, no, it's not a service animal. You can say no. So, here's the thing. If you are a provider of transportation, you must comply with the ADA reset. So, okay, if you are a provider of transportation, you must comply with the ADA. That seems to really contradict what the Lyft lawyer said, that We are not in the transportation business, even though they deal with transportation all the time, directly in some cases. So, yeah, that's not going to be an argument that wins. My nose is really stuffy. I wish I had some tissues right now. It's like, just because you're covered by the ADA doesn't mean you have to go to the ends of the earth to accommodate people with disabilities, but you have to take reasonable steps. Okay, this is something I've never read before. For example, she said, they're driving a Prius and you have a collapsible wheelchair that can fit into the trunk. They, the drivers, are obligated not to discriminate against you on the basis that you're in a wheelchair and give you a ride if it's possible. So you see, that's where you can get a little bit of a gray area, if you will. Because, oh wow, this is really bad, guys. I'm sorry. Is there... Wow, sorry. I'll power through this, and then we might have to end this early, because now my nose is getting stuffy. Because, you know, guys, I'm going to be back in just one moment. I'm sorry about this. Okay, sorry guys. I just bought the live stream an additional 15 minutes. But getting back to this, so that could be interesting, that little gray area, because like if you come with like a regular car and they're disabled, maybe there is something that says, hey, a reasonable accommodation has to be made. So it's like, hey, the wheelchair can be disassembled, fit in the trunk easily. Okay, take them. The wheelchair can't be disassembled. If you have to hang it up on a rack that you don't have, maybe you don't. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want to be making wild claims. I kind of learned my lesson not to make such bold claims on these situations, but that could be a thing. So anyway, yeah, that's just what this is. Now let's go back to over here so I can read some of your comments. Oh wow, we have 98 people. Hey, if you haven't given a thumbs up, please do so. So anyway, April says, I have a disability and I think Uber and Lyft shouldn't have to deal with disabilities. People have other ways to get rides. I have a disability too, to be honest. But, you know, and I don't think that they shouldn't have to deal with people with disabilities. I think that if they're going to, they should have a special service. But again, it's where it gets complicated, because if Uber says, hey, you know what, we want to help more disabled people get around, we're going to create this service, this is how much it's going to cost, this is the cars it's going to have, here's the type of drivers we're going to employ. Sometimes all the people with disabilities see is like, that costs $2 a mile, this costs 60 cents a mile. Why are you charging more just because I'm disabled? That's discrimination. And I don't even fully believe it is. Like, no. There is special equipment involved. There is special training involved. These are not your typical Uber drivers. Heck, they're even employed by the company. But they don't see it that way. They just see like, I mean, it's kind of like when you go to the movies and it's like, oh, do you want to see it in IMAX? Yeah, I'd love to see it in IMAX. Okay, that'll be $18. But a movie ticket is typically $12.50. Yeah, this is IMAX, so it's $15. Well, why should I pay more for the same movie? It's like, because it's a better experience. Yeah, so we have to use this projector and the speaker. Like, well, I don't want to pay that. It's like, okay, well, do you want to see standard? Well, I don't have time to see the standard. That's the only showing. So, yeah, I want you to charge me the regular price. But that's what it really is, in my opinion. But, you know, I know why we have disability laws. They make sense for the most part. So, all right, let me see here. Who else? I'm really backlogged on these comments. One Love says, I was reading the fine print when you pick up a person that is buying with a seeing eye dog. If they take a crap in your car, you can't even get a cleanup fee. Well, that's true, but here's something else to keep in mind. An eye-seeing dog wouldn't do that in your car. So if they did that, then they're not a real eye-seeing dog. Eye-seeing dogs are trained to do more than just lead people around. They're trained to relieve themselves in the proper places. So yeah, if that happens, oh, great. Now the mouse isn't working for some reason. So I can't go. So yeah, this is why I say ask your passenger what the dog is for. I'm gonna try to skip it. I'm gonna skip ahead to the current. Oh, Dustin, how you doing? So, so I didn't realize Dustin was even here. That shows how far back I am. Okay, let's see to So anyway. Okay, Steven says, oh yes, congrats on the rideshare guy video. Well, thanks. I have Cecily to thank for that. She's the one who let me on that channel. So didn't take long for some of the people to start complaining that I was irrelevant to the conversation, but you know, whatever. It was fun. It's always fun to do videos with her. So just as I'm a plus size and I pay more for my clothes. And yeah, that unfortunately makes sense. I used to buy plus size clothes. I thinned down. By the way, guys, I'm under 200 again. So yay. But yeah, and it makes sense because like, well, there's more fabric and cloth to buy. So that's not discriminatory. That's just the way it is. Beacon of Light Driver says, I was a home health aide. Oh, that's interesting. Widowmaker says, Uber and Lyft charge by fare, mileage, time. I think that makes them a transportation. Yeah, I think it makes them puts them in the transportation business. That's for certain. Alex says, I'd rather take a disabled person than an entitled rugrat. Yeah, probably. Tracy Jones says, again, they know that they require special needs, so they should call where the needs are taken care of. Yeah. I know what you're saying, but again, they also want to be seen as human. Like, they don't want to be seen like, well, I'm different. No one wants to be seen as being different. That's why I have passed up on certain benefits that I could receive because I'm technically disabled, but I don't want to be special in that regard. I want to be like everyone else, so I turn them down, and that's why they would turn them down. I mean, aside from the fact that, yeah, those special services cost more money, I think there's just something there where it's like, hey, you know what? I don't want to be treated any differently. If everyone can call an Uber or a Lyft, I want to be able to call an Uber or a Lyft. And they don't want to be treated differently. So I think that's part of it too. iHat says drivers who have medical restrictions or handicaps fall under the same criteria under the ADA. So Uber and Lyft better be careful who they try to... Oh, okay. Can't say that. All right, and there's Dustin saying goodbye. Okay. All right, got to go back up. Let's see here. MPH says Uber and Lyft can put special cars on the road and eat the additional cost of doing business for their company as a transportation company. Yeah, but they don't want to pay for that cost. That's why they're arguing that they're not a transportation company. Sari says, yep, take Uber Wave. I thought it was Uber Assist. John says, I worked with HIPAA laws. You only have the right what the service animal does. Yeah, that's what... I think you meant to say you only have the right to ask what the service animal does. I agree, but you know what? That's all you need to figure out if it's a service animal or not. Low roller scratch. Does the taxi provide? Does a taxi provide handicap services? I've never seen one around. Yes, they do. And they have special vehicles for that too. A lot of taxis you call in though. So again, there's that. Zachariah Adams, transportation and ride for hire are a little different. But you are in the transportation business. Let's see here. Oh, I'm current, so that's nice. Oak Bootsy says a companion dog is not really a service dog. No, it's not. And it's, that whole thing can be pretty, airlines are fighting that because people are bringing their emotional animals onto planes and stuff, and it's like it's bothering people, and it's like, yeah, emotional support animals. One of the reasons I don't like emotional support animals is because I hate the fact that we are so fragile now that we need an animal to be an emotional support. Like, we just can't live without them. And that's like, first of all, that's pandering. But here's the second problem. That animal will always die before you do. So what happens when the emotional support animal that you cling to because you need that animal to be supportive, well, what happens when they die? Then you've got a problem, a real, much bigger problem than before. Widowmaker says, my father has PTSD from the Vietnam War. He has a service dog, and the dog has an ID that verifies that this dog is a service dog. Yep. Lewis says, Uber and Lyft lose money by taking about 50 to 60% in my short trips. About 70% of my trips are less than $5. This is where Uber and Lyft screws us. They screw you everywhere, but I mean, that's probably a prominent place where they screw you. Let's see here. And BP says, when I picked up some guy's father on Father's Day in Beverly Hills, and it takes him 20 minutes to get in my car, and I drop him off 2 minutes away at his son's Bev Hills mansion, no tip. Sometimes you don't get a tip. So, okay, I think we're nearing the end of this one. I'm starting to feel myself get congested again. I don't know if we're going to be doing a live stream tonight. I'd like to, of course, but I don't know if we will. So, for the time being, check back later. Maybe we'll do it, but this might be the one live stream for today. But I should have given people a warning that the first 15 minutes were... Maybe I'll make this video again and do it shorter. I don't know. But anyway. So I'd like to know what all of your thoughts are on this. Do you agree with Lyft? Do you disagree with Lyft? Anything we've talked about? I'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, but even as little as $1 it goes a long way to help this channel run smoothly. Also, if gas is going to be too expensive, check out the Get Upside app below. It's free. You get cash back every time you buy gas. And subscribe to the Apptrepreneur Vlogs channel. We've got new videos going up every week. And check us out on the Apptrepreneur Hangouts if you want to talk to me or other people. And as always,